On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
The Toronto Police Hate Crime Unit has charged a 32-year-old man with 29 criminal offences, many of which are alleged to have been motivated by hatred towards the Jewish community. Amir Arvahi Azar was arrested earlier this year on January the 11th. The charges include public incitement of hatred. They also include advocating genocide and willful promotion of hatred, which both require the consent of the Ministry of the Attorney General. Due to a court-imposed publication ban, we cannot provide further details at the moment.
That's the voice of Deputy Chief Rob Johnson of the Toronto Police in a video released on Monday this week when the force announced the arrest and charging of a Toronto man for, quote, very serious charges motivated by hate against the Jewish community. The police laid 29 charges, including 3 rare ones: advocating genocide on social media, willful promotion of hatred, and public incitement of hatred, all against Jews. There were others connected to arson or vandalism at synagogues, possession of illegal weapons, and possession of credit card forgery tools. What the officer didn't announce in the video was that the suspect has been in custody for 2 months already since his arrest on January 11th. He also didn't reveal that an Ontario Court Justice of the Peace had just ordered the suspect released on bail with conditions. When Jewish leaders in Toronto learned about the arrest and charges on Monday, they initially praised the police's hate crime unit and the results of its months-long investigation. The community's been on edge after October 7th, as the number of hate-reported crimes against Jews has soared. So when police also shared the news the suspect was ordered released from custody on bail, that did not go over well.
I am not happy that this guy is back on the street or house arrest. Protect the community. That's it. And I'm not so sure that the judge's decision is going to be very well received by our community.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Thursday, March the 20th, 2025. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, and made possible in part thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Toronto police allege this suspect is linked to arson and vandalism at 5 synagogues, 1 Jewish cafe, which is Cafe Landwehr, a Jews for Jesus church, and more, plus a barrage of threatening phone calls made to the Forest Hill Jewish Center. There is more, but there's a court-ordered publication ban on some details of this case, so we have to be careful about what we tell you. You should know the Crown prosecutor has appealed the bail immediately. A motion to review the Justice of the Peace's ruling has already been filed with the Superior Court of Justice. But that leaves Jewish leaders whose premises were the target of some arson attacks feeling uneasy. Joining me now are Rivka Campbell. She was the host of the CJN's Rivkush podcast, but she's also executive director at Beth Tikva's congregation. And Gidi Mammon of Tiferet Israel Congregation also joins. Welcome back to the CJN Daily.
Thank you for having us, Ellen.
Maybe each of you would like to start by telling our audience what your specific incidents were at your synagogues.
Sure. So it might not sound all that dramatic, but we had, of course, a Federation sign bolted to a wooden picket fence, and someone came and set it on fire. Now, it didn't cause extensive damage or any damage really to the synagogue, but you know, when you see that very, very close to a very small shul. Our shul is not a signature shul or anything. It's a very, very tiny little synagogue. And of course, there was other synagogues, much bigger, much more prominent than ours. But it felt like the threat is very, very close and very consistent, and seems like a sinister warning of what people are capable of doing, whether it's setting fire, assaults, shootings at a little girls' school. You know that the threat is out there. It is increasing in intensity and frequency, and it's getting closer and closer. And I think it's all a real warning of maybe what is really capable of happening here in Toronto.
Let's go back just quickly to tell our listeners that the suspect was not connected to the Beis Chaim Mushka shooting at all. But it's also close to where you hold a weekly, literally blocks away, a weekly pro-Israel rally on the same street.
That's right. And as you know, we were visited a couple of months ago by the opposition, the Palestinian and pro-Hamas crowds who've come now and set up against us on the east side. And so the community feels with the attacks and with people shouting terrible things, they really get to feel what is out there. And they see and they hear and they feel the hate that a lot of Canadians are feeling post October 7th. And it's making people extraordinarily uncomfortable.
Let's go to the bigger synagogue. You mentioned that you're a small synagogue. The Beth Tikva is a much bigger synagogue and also was targeted early. Rivka, what happened that brought damage to your synagogue area?
Okay, so we're on the outskirts. And one of the things I'd always said is like, we're on the outskirts, eyes on us. And shortly after October 7th, we had those similar signs vandalized, with inappropriate things written on them. Stickers happened twice, 3 times, something like that, culminating in finally it being set on fire of April last year. And if it wasn't for the good graces of somebody happening to walk by at that hour of the early morning, the damage would have been extensive because of the trees, the electrical, everything where that was located. How did it make me feel? This is how I felt, just like frustrated, angry, a mix of emotions, to the point where I almost felt like hopeless, like just everything, because it was like, enough.
Were you informed at all by the police that they had arrested someone January 11th? No. Did either of you know this?
No, I heard from a colleague who's near us, and I remember asking the question because I don't believe in coincidences, and knowing that we had the same incident on the same street, I found it really hard to believe it wasn't the same perpetrator. In fact, I said, we should worry if there's another fire starter out there.
But with the police telling you that they got this person on January 11th, you heard that?
They did not tell us.
I didn't hear anything either.
My colleague on Bayview told me.
At KST, that was also hit.
Yeah. And I was like, really? I haven't heard a thing. Regardless of whether it's our perpetrator or not, we're in the same neighborhood. We have bad stuff happening too. I think between the two of us, we've had the most incidences in Toronto. So we need to know.
When you heard the police press release on Monday, Gidi, you didn't know either?
Not at all. The police, and I completely understand, a lot of people in Toronto are very critical of the Toronto Police Service and our Solicitor General, et cetera, but we don't know what they know, and we don't know when and how arrests are going to be made. There are reasons why maybe this arrest was made when it was, and for keeping information banned. I want to believe that the Toronto Police is acting in good faith and trying to help us out. But Ellen, there's a lot of hate out there. I taste it every single week. People drive by, and I keep an eye on every car, and you get the finger, you get the words, you get the anger, the vitriol. It's out there. And what this simply does, this charge sort of says, here it is. We have been working on it. And quite frankly, when I saw the list, it was much more than I anticipated, because I live in I don't have eyes everywhere. I just worry about my own little neck of the woods, our rally, my synagogue, other synagogues in the neighborhood. But I'm really kind of taken aback how many synagogues and how many places associated with the Jewish community have been attacked. And I'm going to tell you something. I can't imagine that this fellow here, who allegedly did these things, is the only guy out there who has considerable animus towards our community. He's not alone, and he's clearly giving us a nice warning. But there's others out there, and we have to be vigilant. We can't walk around like we're terrified all the time, but we have to be vigilant. There are people out there who just simply hate us. That's it, bottom line.
Yeah, if I could just say something about the police. Yeah, I respect the police. I've worked with police even in my past career in Emerge. I get that. My issue is You have this person out there. You have this person who's targeted 2 synagogues in the area that this person happened to have been. Out of courtesy, you should have notified my synagogue that we have made an arrest, period. It was 5 minutes from the synagogue, my synagogue. So communication is key, and communication builds trust. They put me in a position where I can't make choice. If you tell me something has happened, you have arrested somebody, and or they're on bail, whatever, I can make choices for the community I serve. But again, that would have just been a courtesy thing to do.
If you ask me what's really troubling to me, and again, I wasn't in the courtroom, I don't know all of the evidence, but I find it remarkable that this person made bail. This is a reverse onus situation. Usually the Crown has the burden of proving that you should be held. You're a menace to society. This person has been charged with such serious crimes that it reverses. He has to persuade the court why he should not continue to be detained and why he should be released. So it seems that maybe since January, I don't know when he was released.
He was released today.
Oh, he was released today.
March 17th, he had the hearing. Apparently, how my sources tell me is they have to fit him with a bracelet, and that takes a day. And so till that happens, the sources tell me he probably didn't get out until Tuesday.
Right. Well, that I'm not aware.
Ankle bracelet and house arrest. Yeah.
So he was charged in January and he's released. But I'm shocked that he is released. Number one, and that's on the judge. Now I don't know what the evidence was, but this fellow shouldn't be out so easily. It seems to me. Like I said,
to where? To Willowdale?
I can't say more than that.
That's fine. I'm just
in any event,
disturbing.
yeah.
It's
in any
disturbing.
event, it sends a pretty crazy message that you could be accused of some pretty heinous things, like 29 charges here or something like that, and you're targeting a specific community. This is Canada, and we're not supposed to have views like that. We're not supposed to behave like that. And apparently he was able to meet the test, and he's been released. Well, I guess good for him, but I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people now that they know he's out there. I wouldn't blame someone who's not in the law business to say, what is that? Why on earth would you release like a person like that? That's not a guy you should be taking. You should be rolling the dice with, in my opinion.
I mean, from what we know, the Crown has immediately filed a motion to have a review of the bail granting. The person's supposed to be back in court for April 28th, but it tells you that the police and the Crown must have been losing their minds when this guy got to walk.
I would think so.
After 9 months of investigating.
Oh my gosh. And to Giddy's point, lone actor, I'm on edge. I'm on edge for the community. I'm on edge for myself. I'm on edge, because we've had our person try and infiltrate the synagogue.
Tell me a bit about that. You can tell us, our listeners, about what happened. It's not the same person, but yeah.
It's not the same person, but it's like just another thing, right? So I happen to be in the front hallway near the front doors, and this young lady walks right by me, and I stop her, and I'm like, what are you doing here? And she said, because, your spidey sense goes off. And she says, I'm here to see where you pray. I said, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. She goes, well, what do you mean? And then she was very agitated. And I said, you have to leave now. You must leave. So we watched her leave security, and we watched her go the wrong way. And so I said, watch her. And then I watched her try. She went down these stairs that we have off the parking lot. And so I ran through the synagogue with security, and there she was, examining with her phone out the door and this and that. And I said to her, you have X amount of time, 30 seconds to leave, or I'm calling her 10 seconds, whatever. And I'm calling the police. And she turned to me and she let out one of the worst swear words in Arabic, which I must say, I repeated back to her, and she lost her mind. And I and security escorted her off the property, okay, with all the vitriol. And she's like filming me. I'm filming her. And she left. And then I come back and I see this car sitting in the parking lot. So I'm like, what is happening tonight? So I go up to the car And it's a police officer. So to him, I said, did you not see what was happening? He said, oh, I thought you were escorting her off for her safety. I'm like, no. So then he's like, which way did she go? And he took off after her. Haven't heard anything about it.
So this is very scary because this happened in October of 2024, and your sign burning was 6 months earlier. So there may be other people targeting. And
another one tried to get in. I didn't send that, just like on, what month is this? February 20th. And they were stopped at the door, two young ladies, and they had a list of Jewish institutions. Okay.
Hey, this guy is going to be an inspiration to other people, like-minded people. And, you know, someone is undoubtedly going to think this guy is some sort of a hero. Yeah, he represents what I'm thinking. And, you know, I got to do my part. I got to do my share. Just the same way the rally, you know, the rally, we're out there, we're supporting Israel, and we inspire other people to support Israel. That's how we've grown. But here, this person is manifesting what unfortunately many people feel towards the Jewish community because of what happened in the aftermath of October 7th.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
And I will tell you also that it's not just October 7th, Ellen. I think that this is something that predates October 7th. I think anti-Semitism, and I think the statistics bear that out. I'm not an expert on anti-Semitism, you know, in the sort of institutional level, but I think the statistics would probably bear out the fact that anti-Semitism was gradually on the rise. But since October 7th, it has skyrocketed to the point now, you know, if it reaches so many synagogues, including a tiny little synagogue that nobody's even heard of.
How many members do you have?
On a Shabbat, we'll get maybe about a dozen men and maybe 5 or 6 women. It's such a small shul. It's so insignificant on the map of shuls.
It's wonderful.
It's a wonderful shul. But if you want to express your hate against the Jewish community in large, you wouldn't be picking my synagogue, Tiferet Israel. You'd be picking like the Bayit or something like that. And if you're going down to that level, even a little synagogue, you're going to target, then that, you know, that's something a bit different.
The RCMP has warned, CSIS has warned previously with the arrests of that teenager in Ottawa whose father said he was radicalized online and he was going to do a bomb. CSIS warned that the online radicalization starts young, it starts early. And in fact, earlier this month, the federal government, on the date of the March 6th Anti-Semitism Forum, they announced $10 million towards these research groups, universities, and police departments. It's called the Community Resilience Fund. It's not only Canada, they have researchers in Germany, whatever, to get kids before they go into the dark web and get Palestinian Islamic Jihad or Al-Quds force of the IRGC or whatever, you know, to radicalize them. There is evidence. Some of my sources tell me that online postings played a big role in this case too. So this whole other area, you mentioned, Gidi, that it's not just this one person. There's more of them out there.
And just to talk to you quickly about the funding that we appreciate very much from the Liberals on the roundtable. I participated here locally in Toronto at that one, and then a smaller private one last week with Yara Sachs. So I appreciate the money. Don't get me wrong, and I think it'll help. But money cannot make you happy, and money cannot make you safe. You know, no matter how much money you throw at it, and no matter how much money you have personally, is not going to necessarily guarantee you the result that you think you're going to get. We have a problem as a community, and I don't really know what the solution is to stay in this community long term. I'm not sure, because the trajectory is only in one direction: more hate, more violence, a societal sort of decay where people's basic respect for one another, and I'm not just talking about anti-Semitism. I mean, political discourse is horrific. Respect between people is just gone, and it's for us. that's not a good sign. We're the canary in the coal mine, and we feel
Yeah.
it first. And
Mhm.
it looks like we're feeling it at all the levels. The teeny tiny shuls like mine, and the much bigger shuls, more prominent shuls, the ones that you really want to get kind of in this sort of hate war.
Were you able, and either of you, to help the police with any security footage?
We have security cameras mounted at the rally, and we have shared some of the footage with police. We don't know what they're looking for, why they're asking. They tell us the period of time that they're looking in the direction, and we give it to them, and they have no obligation to tell us anything about what they're investigating. I'm just going to I have no choice. I'm going to have faith in the TPS. They know what they're doing. They're the experts. I hope they have our best interests at heart. I believe that they do. And I'm very involved in the community, Alan, and I'm just finding out now about this guy and this arrest and this statement and the fact that he was just released. Imagine some other person who's going about their business thinking that they're okay, that they're safe, not knowing that there's a guy like this right in our community. So
Well,
that's problematic.
that's how Beth Tikva feels right now. My community of almost 900 members that I'm concerned about. And I've shared all the footage of all the various incidences, including shots of vehicles, everything. Interestingly enough, one of the footage, I believe it's the one of the signs on fire, was actually used in the media, not necessarily attributed to happening at Beth Tikva's though, but which made me smile. I was like, that's our parking lot. What's it doing there?
You guys could afford cameras. Our shul can't afford cameras. Maybe now with this grant, we'll get a few dollars for some cameras facing Shepherd. That's for sure. It looks like our synagogues expose us to peril. It looks like even at the workplace, we're seeing hatred. Our kids go to schools where they have to deal with hatred and walk around it and avoid it and try to keep their heads down. It's becoming quite the package. Our places of worship, our places of work, our places of study. It's not a great situation for us right now.
People might say, just to end, well, it's like Montreal. They did it when no one was there. No one got hurt. There was no injuries. It was just property damage. Like, for example, Pride of Israel is $20,000 for their windows, what have you.
Yeah, but that's the very definition
that we were
of
lucky,
terror.
right?
That's the very definition of terror, to terrorize. And that's what it does, right?
This is proof of the hate. This is not an attack to harm. It's an attack to warn us that they can reach us.
Well, the other things were the 3 hate crimes: counseling for genocide, advocating for genocide, willful promotion of hatred. Those are the biggies. And so those go together. They combine. If he's convicted, there's a life sentence on that one, which is way longer than he would have gotten if he got convicted of just any of those ones individually, which is like 5 years or 2 years max.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very serious escalation of the charges.
And I know, Alan, we don't have a full picture. We don't have a full picture out on the street yet of what's going on, but people will now learn from this and figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to deal with their children, how they're going to deal with their jobs. It's not easy. I mean, I've been here since I was 3 years old in this country. I'm 63 years old, 60 years in this country. In July, it'll be 60 years. This is not really what we bargained for when we came to Canada. The whole thing was that, they accept everybody. It's everybody's, every color, every religion, every faith. It's not working out so good anymore.
All right, both of you, thank you so much for sharing your synagogue's experiences.
Thank you so much, Alan. Be well.
Wow.
Nice to see you, Rivka.
Right.
Be well.
Likewise.
All
bye.
the best, sweetie. Bye-bye.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, made possible in part thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. The suspect is just one of the persons alleged to be behind attacks on the city's Jewish community. Toronto police have previously released photos of 2 other persons they are seeking for other incidents. One man drove a pickup truck and wore a hat to torch synagogue signs. The other person wore a puffy blue jacket while breaking the glass windows of a synagogue with a hammer. The police confirmed today neither of those 2 have been arrested, and their investigation is ongoing. Our show is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman. Executive producer is Michael Freeman. Editorial director is Mark Weisblatt, and our music is by Dov Beck-Levine. Don't forget to read the long articles with more community reaction and more details about the case on our CJN website. We put the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.